A lot of times we manifest decision trauma because we're in the habit of stress. A friend recently was going through this with some paint color decision and it turned into a thing. And then they're like, oh my God, it did not need to. So what did we manifest? We manifested stress. Guess what? That's a habit. So I don't think people have a hard time necessarily making the decision. I think the decision-making trauma is a way to get your stress chemicals that your body's addicted to.
Should I end my marriage? Should I move to this new state? Should I have a baby? Should I take this job? Should I quit this job? These are kind of big decisions. The only thing that stops us is the fear.
It's also good to ask yourself this, like, well, hey, if you're struggling with this choice, like, what are you afraid of?
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Flow Getter. We are your hosts, Erica and Lisa. Hi, Lisa.
Hi.
So good to see you.
So good to see you.
So we are going to talk about decision-making today and how to make decisions with more confidence, more effectively, maybe not necessarily quicker, but just like to know what's good and what's not good for you in a way that you trust, I suppose.
That's perfect.
Okay.
I agree. I agree that this is a good thing. So, okay, Erica, I'm going to start off with my deep thoughts. I'm just going to barf them all out because,
Good.
All right, I think with decision making, you see people struggle. Now, this is something we all struggle with, so I'm not going to act like I've never had decision making problems. Today, I'm feeling pretty good about decision making because sometimes I just get in that mode where I can be like left, right, this, that, all those things. But a lot of times you struggle or you see your beloved friends or people struggle with decision making. And I think there's an old adage that I was saying to a friend the other hour ago that it's like, just make the decision and make the decision right. Meaning, most of the things you're doing don't have a, like, oh my God, what if I make the wrong decision? Like, yes, there are certain things, certainly. Like, don't text and drive. Like, not a good idea. Like, you should probably not do that. But like, I don't think there's a wrong decision. And Abraham kind of taught me that one where I was like, there's really, because I was sort of, I'd have decision trauma like on the menu or just certain, like, what should I wear or whatever. And I'm like, just make a choice and then make it right. And so I've taught myself that. So most of the time, I get caught up and hung up in certain areas of my life. But I really, like, let's say if we're not talking about that little spot, maybe it's a big spot. I don't know. But that spot, that's like my hellscape. But outside of the hellscape, I'm like, oh, just this is a choice and it's awesome. Like, I don't even care if it is awesome. I'm just going to decide that it's awesome. And then the hellscape is a whole different thing. So I basically wanted to say that we have a way, like if it's not in your, I'll call it your really hot spots, right? Like where everyone is just kind of like, oh, that's kind of a trouble area for me. But if it's anything else and it's stressing you out, just choose. Like, you can't do it wrong. You can't screw it up. You get a million tries. You didn't make any bad choices. So like all that small stuff, just say yes to yourself. And that's what I think. The end.
I love that. I agree with you. I do think that there is never a wrong choice. Even if you make a choice and you trip over yourself or you hurt somebody else with the choice you made, face plant, it's still not a wrong choice because every single experience is filled with learnings. And that's the point of life, is to learn, to grow, to evolve, to change, to be better, do better. So no matter what you choose, there is opportunity for learning and growth. So I love that so much.
I love what you just said, because that is the huge thing, is like, you can't do it wrong. You just can't.
You can't do it
like,
wrong.
I mean, it feels wrong. Like, oh, I married the serial killer and did meth. Oops. But I'm like, yeah, but you're growing now that you see that. Right?
Yes, right. And really, if you think about it, there's always only ever one choice. Whatever choices you made is the one choice. That's perfect. I'm going to say a couple things. One thing I'll say that I think is so important is decision making should always come from our bodies and not our minds. Our minds are there for observation, learning, observation, and then you go into your body when you're sort of observing from up here. That's what the eyes are for. That's what the ears are for. That's like
Yes.
we're taking in
Processing.
information. This is where you take in information and then you
Yeah.
process it down in your body. And your body is what gives you all the signals to what feels right, what doesn't feel right, the instincts, the gut reactions, the intuition, the good feelings, or the not good feelings, the pull in one direction or a different direction. And I think the reason sometimes it's really hard is because our minds are the ones who are trying to make the decision. It's like, oh,
Yep.
logically,
Ping
if I
pong, ping
like
pong, ping
logic,
pong. Yep.
yeah, exactly. And that's how come we get messed up is we're kind of cutting ourselves off from the processing part and the true decision making areas. And we're just living up here. And so we get all, it's like, well, logically this makes sense, but my body is pulling me in this direction. But I know that I've seen this work before
Yeah.
in, and so that's where we kind of start to have this internal conflict. So I will say, and I have this has worked for me. I mean, I can't think of a time that this hasn't worked for me where I have trusted what's happening in my body and I've made the choice from my body, even if it feels like, or even if logically it seems like the longer route or, seems like the illogical way. It's worked out. And I mean, life is always working out for us, but I really do feel like knowing that bit of information is really helpful in my
It's super
experience.
huge. So to recap your genius, things are always working out for you. You can't do it wrong, but mostly the headline is your body. And I think the thing with the body, it's like, because you got your emotional center there too. Because like sometimes I'm like, my body wants that donut. But I'm like, but does it really? Like it's your emotions that are like, I'm panicking. I need comfort food. It's that I think it's like your brain's going one way, your emotions are going the other way, and your body is going this way, and nothing is aligned. But I love what you said about you have to trust. It's like this exercise in trusting yourself, which we all need to learn. Like, I'm really good in this area. I'm not good in this area. That's everybody, right? Like, every single person has a little area that they're like, gamble, right? And I think we get in trouble when our whole life starts to turn into all that. Like, every little thing is like, because no one's going to be perfect. So, going into the body. I love it.
I love that you just brought up the example of the donut because this is perfect because I know that there are instances in our lives where it's like, really trust your body. Well, my body is craving a cigarette. My body is craving,
Yeah.
The alcohol or the whatever. Like that's really what my body is pulling me toward. Here's the thing though. Here's what I've learned because we all have cravings, right? I've sort of trained myself to go to the end game, kind of. Let's say that. Where,
Ooh.
okay, in the moment, yes, that donut sounds amazing. But here's the thing. It sounds amazing in my mouth, which is still a part of my head, right? And then it goes into my body and my body's like, yeah, I don't feel good. And then of course, when we're talking about like chemical addiction, that's a whole nother level, right? That's a whole nother
That's
layer.
a level. Yeah.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
But when you think of the end game, even when you're going through like detox, it's like, oh, you want me to stop eating burgers and fries for like salads or whatever. There is a detox period where your body's like, this salad ain't working for me. This juice ain't
Yeah.
working for me. This healthy stuff ain't working. Well, the end game is not the detox period. The end game is when you get out of that part and you get to the true feeling good. It feels so good. Or like
Foresight.
the foresight,
Foresight.
right? Train your body to get to that end game. Really the ultimate thing that you want. Working out is another example where it's like, it's going to hurt. It's going to be exhausted. My body's like, what's the end game though? And also you need to learn, not you, Lisa, but like we, people who aren't used to doing certain things, but we know that they're good for our bodies. It's a detox. It's a training. It's a shift. It's a new habit created. But really the end game is what you're after. And your body knows that. It's just that when we've created these habits, these physical habits, these emotional habits, it's a habit, and our bodies have sort of formed and kind of gotten into these routines that we're comfortably uncomfortable in. And so when we try to pull it out, there's a the period of discomfort, but the end game is not the discomfort part. The end game is, oh my God, the awesome and the goodness and the stuff that we know and our bodies know. Anyway.
Oh my God.
I just babbled on.
I love that so much because, no, you did not, because it's worth saying how that works. So the foresight is really your friend when you're having decision. Okay, so let's say you're just like, I'm pulled in 10 different directions. You go, okay, it's super hard to make this decision, but if I think about, okay, like let's say your body's this, and you're maybe just not feeling in touch with yourself that day, you have this backup called foresight going, okay, I know you want to eat the fuck it pizza, like so bad, but remember how you wake up each day going, I need to lose weight or whatever. Like just kind of go, okay, self-care equals just add more avocado on whatever you're eating to make it a little more fatty, yummy or whatever. Like you can still have a treat, but just don't, so just a little foresight goes a long way. The other thing I wanted to say about the habit is I think a lot of times we manifest decision trauma because we're in the habit of stress. Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Sorry, microphone. So kind of like, let's say you have this whole like, oh yeah, because I've done this. So because I've done it, I know people that you're like, okay, I'm just going to do this thing. It's going to be super easy because I'm in easy world and yay. And then all of a sudden you're like, wait, like the whole thing slows down and then decisions come. So instead of it being easy, now it's an A or B or, well, maybe I could have this. And pretty soon you didn't get anywhere. You're frustrated. You're stressed out. You're angry. You're just all these things. And you're like, oh my God, what just happened? Like that just took a hard left into, I'm like, which side is my left? I don't know. But it's like you take a hard left into stress land without even noticing it because you're just making a decision on, like, if you're crafting something, you're remodeling something, you're, something that's a little bit more of a project. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, so I just bathed in stress chemicals all day. Great. How many freaking times have I done that with something? And I've seen a friend recently was going through this with some, paint color decision, and it turned into a thing. And then they're like, oh my God, it did not need to. Because, they sort of end up in the thing. And I was like, okay, so what did we manifest? We manifested stress. Guess what? That's a habit of manifesting stress. So I don't think people have a hard time necessarily making the decision. I think the decision-making trauma is a way to get your stress chemicals that your body's addicted to, or the habits you're vibrationally, or your patterns or stuff like that. So just being aware will make you go, okay, I'm having decision trauma. Is this really a difficult choice, or am I just doing my pattern, which is blah, 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 and then get frustrated and plop, and then be like, oh my God, oops, I did it again, Britney Spears, but not in a good way, right? So I mean,
yes,
it's back to the awareness, which you teach me every time we do this podcast. And then when you get the awareness, you get the growth. The end. Okay, bye, everybody.
I love this. Bravo.
Yes.
Golf clap.
Oh, good show, Erica. Good show.
That was perfect. You're totally 100% correct. The end.
The end. But deeper. Trust. Tell me about trusting yourself. Yeah. This is what people struggle with. They really don't trust themselves. And why? Go. Tell us everything.
Oh my God, yes. Okay. So, yes. So we covered emotional habits or stress habits because that is huge. Mm-hmm. So yeah. Okay. Trusting yourself. I remember when, so when my mom died, my dad said one of the hardest things for him was that he didn't have another person to validate to kind of do that back and forth thing, to like validate his,
you're playing off of
yeah, someone else is there to, he was like, he had a tough time, like, especially like having to make bigger decisions. You have 3 children and there are some decisions that are pretty big. And how do you know
Yes.
that you're
Do we
making the
ship
right
Erica
choice for
off to
your
boarding
3
school?
kids?
Do we
Exactly.
leave Erica at Target? No, you were great. And I
Totally.
saw an opportunity. Okay, keep going. Sorry. Your poor dad. Yes, you don't
So,
have someone to
yeah.
validate and all the things. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and I remember my immediate thought was like, I was actually shocked that he said that because I have always, me, I've
You're like
kind
the
of been
opposite.
someone
You're
who
like,
doesn't. Yeah. I'm like, I don't need no, I'm good. I know what I want. Like, I don't, I'm like pretty much the exact opposite.
yeah.
But having heard that from him, and especially like at the time, because I was I was like in my teens when he said that. It was like, wow, you struggle with making choices. You're like an adult, I thought that you're supposed to have all your shit together by now. But no, but it's true. Like that has nothing to do with adulthood. And I think with my dad, there's, and I will say for some people, not just my dad, when you so deeply identify with the outside world, sometimes it can be, it's almost like a mashup of like what you want and what you feel the rest of the world wants. And that's
Yeah. You
often very
echolocate off the
conflicting.
world a little more. Because Nick and I are
Yes.
both 2. Is he a 211 or a 2
He's a
in
211.
numerology? Okay, yeah.
He's a
So I
211.
feel him
Yeah,
so much. Okay.
exactly.
It's like when
Yes.
you're younger and, well, even though he was an adult and had 3 kids, it was like just a different time or whatever, right? It's like you're echolocating off the world. You're like, okay, I need some kind of, you're my friend who's like this healer lady, she's like, you're kind of rendering yourself in space, because we're a vibration that's broadcasting into these bodies. We are not really here. As we've talked about many times, go see our podcast. And we're here, but we're not. So it's like you get more data, the more you're kind of bouncing off more things, unless you're you, who you're like, no, you bounce internally. But like
Yeah.
Nick and I are very much like, did they laugh at the joke? Did they this? Did blah, 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 blah. And we pair really well with other people in terms of like, okay, we kind of do the tennis match of, all the things. Like today, there was something where I told my husband, I was like, I need you to, something creative is happening in my brain. I need you to like be my cooler and like shut me down. So I was like, okay, all this stuff. And he's like, okay, this and this. I'm like, okay, thanks. And then I'm
That's
that for
awesome.
other people who are going insane. I'm like, stop it. And then A and B, like we can all be like, you know, sort of each other's makeover friend and be like, ugh. But when you're in
Yeah.
it, you need somebody else. And so I can see how that would be super difficult, especially after a loss like that.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. No,
no
you're
way.
absolutely right. If you're a person like that, which is perfect, hopefully we all have someone who we can bounce stuff off of. And I think the key there is, I don't think that's a sign of not trusting yourself. I think when you don't trust yourself is when you hear the feedback and you just go with what somebody else thinks
Yeah.
versus hearing the feedback and then checking in with yourself and feeling what feels right. I think that's where it's like, yeah, okay, I want a person to bounce this stuff off of. Let's talk. What do you think? What are your thoughts? It's like an information gathering. And again, that's where up here, I'm hearing, I'm
Mm-hmm.
seeing, I'm gathering information, I'm bouncing stuff off of others. Okay, now I go into my body and I check every single time with every new bit of information I get. I go into my body, I check it out, I see how it's feeling, I see how it resonates. And if it takes, who cares how long it takes? Like,
Yeah.
this is
Sometimes it's
life.
instantaneous where you're like, your friend calls and you're like, blah, 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 blah. And they're like, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, oh my God, yes, totally. And like you feel it. That's exactly what happens, right? And other times you're like, okay, I hear you. And you're marinating in this thing. But I again submit that this marination period is I want to just stress myself the F out period. So careful of that. Like,
Totally.
good to marinate, especially bigger decisions, learn how to connect with yourself. But I agree that it's not bad at all to like connect with the outside. And we're here together on the planet. There isn't just
Yeah.
one of us, I
Yeah.
mean, and the people for you, I think, like on the flip side, people who are much more do not need outside input at all. Dear world, don't even try. And she's a Scorpio rising. I'm telling you, don't do it. And I think that the joy for you is like learning that inner landscape of like, oh my God, I totally am figuring that out. And then people who are more outward also get to learn that kind of phase two. It's like you learn how
Yeah.
to work with other people and you're like, okay, harmony, now I get that. Especially if you're 211, you have 2 1s, so it's all about you again. And then it's like, so what I've learned from you and life things, and just, I've noticed that as I'm aging, I had the like, okay, I'm figuring myself out and other people. And now I'm like, okay, girl, where are you at with this? Like, I don't need anyone to tell me nothing. And I love that phase. So I'm like, oh, no wonder you love it so much. Because you're just like, oh my God, I don't need anything or anyone. I'm complete being. Like, it's so amazing. Right? So
Yeah.
that is 100% where I think we're headed, because then I think that next evolution is just getting really connected with your source energy, higher self, where you're like, okay, now all trillion of my cells are pointing me to take a left instead of a right. Like, you become all the information of the universe and you just like really are connected to that, which is kind of like the goal, right?
It's awesome.
But you can go through all those phases at any time during the day. Like, it's not like a linear thing, but just like, can you toggle between outside world and bouncing off, inner thing, higher self? Can you do it all? Because then you've got choices to make decisions. You're not just like, ugh, in the crazy thing.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Oh my
Go.
God. That was amazing. I love that
Yeah.
so much. Um, oh my God. I have like
Caffeine.
5 billion. An awesome choice. Always a good choice.
Always a
Um,
good choice.
always a good choice.
Caffeinate yourself. You
Um,
may piss people off, but you also can make a lot of noise. It's great.
so awesome.
Continue.
Well,
Okay.
you just made me think, and I feel like this is a good thing to address too, is I think what sometimes we learn, oh, if I make this decision on my own and I don't include this partner that I have, then I'm being selfish or that I'm not taking them into consideration. And I think a couple things, two things I'll say. One,
Okay.
I think ultimately when you are consistently making the best choices for you, if you haven't been doing that, there could be a rocky road in the short term, but then
Right.
get to the foresight part, right? Where it's kind of like detoxing, where maybe you've made choices that weren't always for you and you were making choices outside of yourself and they weren't quite what you needed for you. Now you're starting to make choices for yourself because you're learning you're respecting yourself more, you're trusting yourself more. And if you have relationships where the relationship's kind of built on the other person more, those relationships may fall away and that may be a short-term painful thing.
Yeah.
But the more you trust yourself, the more you make decisions based on what works for you, you're going to attract new and better relationships where those things, it's not a you or them, it's a you and them. And that
Yes.
will happen, I promise. The more you kind of, the clearer you become on what you need, what you want, you will automatically manifest people who want the same things.
Yeah. Where it
So
feels
there's
good.
that.
Everyone's making the right, amazing point, Erica. Golf clap that. Because you are making those choices and it's like that win-win feeling of like, oh my God, you're taking care of you, I'm taking care of me, but it kind of harmonizes. And it can be in the same relationship, like
Yeah.
you can grow, that can start to like work itself out, or it will definitely show you it is not working itself out. And then you're like, okay, bye, Felicia, because so if people, dear audience, if you've never experienced what it's like to have that synergy of you can self-care and respect yourself and take care of you, but it also works like you're taking care of other people and it's very harmonious that way. That's real. Eric and I both have this in different formats, but we definitely, and it's the realest thing. And you can get there if you've never experienced that, and you deserve that. Like, that is how life is
Absolutely.
supposed to be. And yeah, there's times where you're like, okay, I can't just be all about myself right now, especially I'm an only child. But at the same time, like, you're like, no, that's good. Like, you don't really need to be all about you right now. Like, there's all this give and take and stuff, but ultimately it feels super harmonious 95% of the time. And then there's always growth. That's what relationships are for. It's never going to be
Yes.
perfect. But I'm so glad you brought that up, because if we're talking about decision making, and we have relationships with people, it's like a huge thing, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, it is. It's like and the thing is too, is like I, and kind of examples, like there have been plenty of relationships in my past where the more I started to choose myself, the more clear it became that that relationship was no longer good for me.
Yeah.
And the flip side is, I've also been in relationships where the more I choose myself, the better the relationship becomes. And it's a really cool thing to really be able to, it's almost like life works itself out for you. You don't even have to try. The only thing you have to do is pay attention to what you need and you want in a genuine way, in a way that's, not purposefully hurting other people. Cause I don't think that's genuine. I think that when you genuinely honor yourself, you are never hurting someone. If someone's offended, that's not you, that's them. It's always about,
Yeah.
what's coming off the inside of anyone. So yeah,
I think you're
I don't know
right.
if I
And
said that right.
I'm glad you meant, no, you totally did, because the genuine thing, like I've had times in my life where I think this sort of assholey selfish thing, it's like, no, I do need that. And I'm like, actually, no, that's not, it's like your ego's kind of in more charge of you than
Yeah,
your real authentic self. So you got to check that, I think is important. It's like,
that's a
okay,
good
is this
call.
coming from, like, are you in your parasympathetic nervous system? Like, or are you stressed out and you just want your things and blah, blah, and that, they didn't do the dishes, so man, whatever. Like, are you really in a calm, peaceful state? If not,
Yes.
just check. Try to
Check
get
yourself.
there. Yeah, because we're all human. We
Absolutely.
all get totally spun out, and nothing spins you out better than other human beings. So it's not like, you know, nobody is
Yeah.
perfect. I mean, there's like Eckhart Tolle. I'm sure he doesn't like lose his shit on Kim. He's all zen, and then he's like, Kim, you know, like I don't think
A
that's
secret
happening.
verbal abuser.
He's like a
I don't
secret,
think so.
yeah, yeah. I just don't think that's gonna happen for him. So yeah, but there's like a small handful of people that I think just showed up all right and they're fine,
Yeah.
but the rest of us, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
yeah, some
Yeah.
stuff working it out. Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
so decision making. All right, Erica, I want to know, because we've blown through a ton of topics. Let's say there's a person who the decision making is from stress addiction. And let's talk specifically. Okay, we thought, okay, all the little stuff, yada, yada, like just pick everything's working out for you. You can't do it wrong. It doesn't matter if I wear this sweater or that sweater, if I eat this or that, or I paint it this color or that. Like, just, yes, doesn't matter. These all have undo buttons or who the hell cares buttons, right? Like, it doesn't matter. But let's talk a little bit more about your thoughts on when you get to the decision making on your sore spots. Like, we talked about core wounds, all that beauty. We've had those things. So let's say someone gets to these are always my trouble areas zone. And the decision making starts to just make you cuckoo, whether, some people it's relationships or money, health, or subsets of those things. So a person is like, okay, I've cleaned up, I can't do it wrong, yay me, blah, blah. And then they get into their trouble spot or something that kind of relates to the trouble spot. So their brain just goes way back into their pattern and their core trauma. And we've talked about those pathways to heal and all this stuff. We've gone through it ad nauseum. Do you have a, like, kind of a shorthand for when someone like hits that and they're just like, and it just starts to ping and go? Like, if I call you and I'm spinning out and you would just be like, okay, like, what would you just shove in there in like a second to get me from flinging off into decision hell? Because I always say, if you can't figure something out, just be any of the women in Hidden Figures. I don't was Viola Davis in that, but I love her.
Oh,
Octavia
I love it.
Spencer, Taraji P. Henson, or any of the guys from Queer Eye. or guys and non-binary, like just be other people and be like, okay, what would Jonathan Van Ness do? What would Viola Davis do right now? Oh my gosh.
So awesome.
Just be Viola Davis would be like the main thing. Because I think the thing is like, I was walking the street and I was like, just take you out of this. Like, you're not even this personality. You're just playing this personality. I'm like, just be somebody else for a second and realize like, oh yeah, they would just do that. I'm like, or your husband or your friend or somebody that just like, what would Erica do? What would Jesus do? What would Viola Davis do? What would, like, you can just try and get out of that mode as fast as possible and be like, oh my God, that was my my pattern got kicked off, that kind of thing. So
I love this.
That's what I was thinking earlier. But I know that you'll have deeper, less Hollywood focused wisdom.
I love your Hollywood focused wisdom.
It's
so entertaining. This is so good because the first thing I'd probably say is I would encourage my friend to steer away from this topic for a minute. And the reason is because it's never a good idea. Because it's never a good idea to make a decision when you're all tense. If there's tension around decision or around making a decision on a specific thing, let's let that go for a minute and let's go to a different topic. Any topic that's going to relax our bodies and just going to kind of, just let it go. That'd be number one. Because a lot of times for me, tension happens when I haven't like moved. I know we've talked about this ad nauseum too. It's like, okay, I've been sitting at my desk all day and I'm like, and now my body is just like, it's like this ball of tension.
Yeah.
And I'm like, now I have to make this decision on, and now this is what I look like inside.
Not unlike a T-Rex.
Totally. Who made bad decisions all the time. So
they did because they're not here.
I mean, they ate. Right. So for me, like sometimes, okay, let go of anything and let me just go unwind by moving my body. Let me go for a run. Let me go for a workout or something. Mm-hmm. Walk. And that'll just allow my body to relax. I can let go of whatever thoughts are happening because now I've shifted my focus more into my body. Like now, okay. And a lot of times, I'm telling you, a lot of times that just like I'll get clarity. That's enough. Clarity will happen.
I knew you would bring the wisdom because you're so genius. I totally forgot about
genius.
That. No,
so that's one tactic.
Move your butt. Okay.
So move your butt is one tactic.
Yes.
I think the headline is never make a decision when you're feeling like that. Because you're just spinning out of control and then you're focused more on it. It's like, and then you're going to kick yourself for making a decision that you've like, I should have made the other one. And then it's just this ball of whatever. Because it's sort of like, imagine making something and whatever it is, you're creating something. And whatever you're creating, if you're creating it from a space of tension and toxicity, that's what's going to go into your creation. Yeah. If you're creating it from a space of peace and love and calm and joy and enlightenment, that's what's going to go into your creation. So your creation is the decision. So if you're creating your decision from a place of tension and stress, you're what? Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah, totally. Uh-huh. But if you're, you're out there jogging and all of a sudden this thing pops in your head. It could even be you are over here stressing over A or B, and then you're running and option C pops in your head and you're like, whoa, that sounds amazing. That's it.
It changes your vibration, moving. And also all your little cells, they are happy to move around more because they create energy, which helps you think better. I mean, it really physiologically, vibrationally, spiritually, emotionally, like move your butt.
Totally. Move your butt because really, and you're right, like physically, and we love to wrap in the science piece, which I love too. And I'm starting to learn to speak more science in my own little way. But like the science piece would be, literally, you are physically moving the anxious energy out. You're like, you're moving the energy out and you're allowing for better energy and space to come in. And that's where you're going to allow for the quote unquote right decision. Again, there's no such thing as a wrong decision. Basically, the way I look at it, and I think
better, good, better, best.
Good, better, best. Yeah. Where it's like you could take the more direct route or you could take this route, and it's like,
get there.
This one, you'll still get there. It'll just take longer, or you could take this route.
Yeah.
And then end up there. So,
yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of like, it's like that. So yeah,
that's
I think
genius.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving. Okay, so the headline is move. Distract yourself somehow. The best way to distract yourself is moving.
Is moving.
And
Yeah.
especially if your friend is in this spot, don't try and make the decision for them.
Yeah.
Get them like, okay, I'm hearing you. Yep, it's okay. And oh, look at the shiny thing.
Yes.
Something
Yeah.
just kind of help them free. And don't tell them you need to move your butt, except if you have that type of friendship with people, then
Totally.
and we've decided that I don't tell you things, but you can tell me things. So I love
I
that.
know. It feels
It's
so
just how it
unfair.
works.
But
No,
it
it's not
yeah,
unfair.
it's
It's how it works best. Yeah, because I go and try and tell other people things, which never works. But now I have friends where I'll just be like, "You need to move your butt right now." But the
it's
whole
good.
point. Okay, so we have distraction, we have movement, we have be a Hollywood person that you worship and just be like, "Oh my god, they would totally not even worry about this or deal with this, or they
Yeah.
pick the pink one or
Pick
whatever."
something and just go with it.
Yeah, just go
Yeah.
with it. But
Yeah.
like the bigger things, like, oh, someone's between, they're stressing about something. It's a higher level of stress. Maybe it's in a big decision, like a job choice or
A
something.
relationship
It's a relationship
ending or
thing or,
beginning. Yeah.
yeah, stuff like that. It's like, I mean, as a friend, all you can do is try and bring someone back to their highest power and wisdom and empowerment. So however that works for you, with your friend, that's the way to do it. If you're by yourself, same answer.
Yes. Be your own best friend. Because really,
Yes.
ultimately, that's what we're all after. That's
Mm-hmm.
why we get into any relationship, is because we want to see ourselves. And it's easier to see yourself when you have another, 4D person or thing in front of you. But like, really, I had a thought. What was it? As you were talking, it was
How
what you were saying
fabulous
was
your
so
hair looks right
brilliant.
now. I love it. Okay. Swish, swish. Okay.
I haven't washed it in like 3 days.
That's fine.
Um,
Looks good.
So I was going to say the bigger decisions. So yeah, because I know this, I mean, this is sort of like, if I were a listener, I'd be like, okay, I get the small decisions. Yeah. Like whatever, pink dress or green dress, who cares? Just pick one. But
Yeah.
like, should I end my marriage or should I move to this new, should I move to this new state? Should I have a baby? Should I take this job? Should I quit this job? Should I, tell my friend that I think they're a total asshole? Like what, like these are kind of big decisions, right?
Right.
And how do I because there are kind of larger consequences with those kinds of decisions.
Yeah.
And I really genuinely think the answer is the same. And the thing is, the only thing that stops us is the fear. And I will say this from personal experience. Like when my marriage ended, there was so much fear around that. And rightfully so. I mean, we had just had a kid, he was like not even 2 years old. And I was like really, really struggling, really sad, really not in a good space.
Yeah.
And I was like that for a long time. And I was just ignoring, the elephant in the room. Like I was ignoring the fact that relationship just wasn't working. It just wasn't working for either of us. And I knew it, but I was just not willing to because there's
you're in your
so
head.
much fear.
Yeah, fear.
So
because
much fear.
What are we going to do about money? Or is the kid going to be damaged? Or
yes, like totally.
Fear.
Like I didn't
we
have a
haven't
job.
even talked about fear. We're talking about decisions, and we haven't talked about fear. So thank you for bringing up fear. Continue.
Fear is huge.
I can't even believe. I'm like, how did that not come up first? I don't get it. Okay,
because it is. I mean, fear paralyzes us. That's what it does. It paralyzes us. Tell me.
No, I know what you're saying. Going to say because I'm having a psychic thing. Keep going.
Yay! Yeah, and so that is that when it comes to decision making, it's like, oh my god, like my body is so pulling me this way. And by the way, fear. Okay, we don't have to get into this so much here because we could probably, this is a whole nother podcast where if we stay stuck because of the fear and we keep making the same kinds of decisions that we've been making that have brought us to where we are now, and we kind of know or really know that it hasn't been working for us, this is when illness and disease develop. when,
Dun,
you
dun,
know,
dun.
dun, dun, dun. Yeah, you know, where or sickness, you know, just really any kind of physical, because the physical stuff happens,
Or at least
it's sort
stress.
of or at least stress. Yes. I mean,
Yeah.
stress really is what creates the physical things.
Yeah.
That's where you know, so it's sort of step one.
Step
Okay.
two.
Step
Yeah.
two, step three. Okay. And then the end thing is, so we've been building up whatever physical situation we're in the whole
Fun.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is fun. So just,
So are
yeah,
you
that's good.
saying, like, with the fear, that like one thing you could do with a friend or with yourself would be to be like, okay, what are you afraid of? Like,
Yes.
what's the real fear here?
What's the
And
real,
then it's
yes.
not going to be about the paint color, and it's not going to be about the job even. It's like,
No.
I'm
Yeah.
afraid. And then you know, if your friend's on the edge or you're on the edge, you'll be like, it's because, you know, and you'll totally like have all these
Totally.
feelings, which is good because you'll have broken the tension.
Yes.
But it's also good to ask yourself this, like, okay, if you're struggling with this choice, like, what are you afraid of? You know, I'm not going
Yeah.
to be good enough. It's not going to work out. I'm like, okay, so stay where you are. It's fine, or don't. But
Yeah.
just, you know, at least you know, right?
That's absolutely, you're right. Because at the end of the day, it really does boil down to how you feel. So if you make a choice, you know, if you, I mean, you could continue to make the same choices that you've been making. And if you somehow, because it can happen where you're like, for like, let's say 2 years, you've been miserable in a relationship and you're like, you know, you could still make the same choice to stay in that relationship and things could get better, you know, if your energy shifts in a certain way, right? It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have to mean the end of a relationship. It doesn't have to mean the end of a job. It doesn't have to mean the end of really anything. It's never about anything that's outside of you. It's always about what's going on in here.
Yeah.
So whatever decision you make, ultimately it comes down to, the choices you're making to make yourself feel good. Really, really,
Love
right?
that. Oh my God. Yes. It's 100% true because say it again. You say it
Yeah.
again.
Ultimately, yeah,
I can't even
ultimately,
say it.
you know, it's never about the outside. I think sometimes we get so locked into what's going on outside of our world. We
Yeah.
have to do this, or we've seen our lives needing to be a certain way, and then when it's just not working, and then it's like always outside of us that we're looking at. Ultimately, it doesn't matter. I always think of, you know, I've talked about this. I always think of that image of like the Zen master walking through the shit storm, like the tornado that's
Oh
going
yeah.
on
And
around
they're just
them.
like,
And they're just like, yeah, calm, peaceful, you know,
yeah.
smile, just like they're
Hmm.
just exuding peace. Like you could pick them up and plop them in any situation.
Yeah.
And it's all about how they feel. And that's really what's happening is like, okay, so the fear, you know, like you said, I mean, you said it in the beginning, it's like, are we in the habit of creating stress? Are we in the habit of feeling fearful? And oftentimes that is a yes. Oftentimes we are, you know, yeah,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I've done it. You know, I find myself doing it, or whatever we've created so far. It's like now all life is doing is presenting us with options to continue that pattern. And we can break
Hmm.
that pattern if we want.
Yes. Yeah,
So,
it's an
yeah.
opportunity every time. And even if you do it 7,000 more times, you're not doing it wrong. You're just taking a little longer
Totally.
journey, which is fine because maybe you want to take the explore every nook and cranny of life experience. And so you're going to do it. So, like, don't beat yourself up. That's the other thing. Don't beat yourself up if you took the long route. I mean,
Yeah.
oh my God,
Who
how
hasn't?
many long routes have I taken? Who
Same.
hasn't taken the long route,
That's why we're
right?
still here. I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
totally. Like you said, only the good die young.
Oh.
Just kidding.
Just kidding, everyone,
Just kidding.
please.
No, just kidding. No,
Just it only
just kidding.
applies
We're kidding.
to, yeah, we're kidding. Oh my God. No. And yet that
I'll
song
edit
is in
that
my
out.
head. Why did he do that? Why? I love Billy Joel, but why? Because it keeps me a little mean. It's great. So, so for my longevity, that's all. Okay. It's a superstition. Just kidding. Okay, so all right, so we are like exploring our fear. We're never going to beat ourselves up. People, don't get tempted to beat yourself up over your decision. Like, here, I was working on a project that requires creative decision making. And but it really doesn't. But I keep getting stuck in like left, right, left, right, left, right. Did I ask myself, what are you afraid of? Even if I did, I'd be like, I don't even believe it. That doesn't matter. It's just that this thing is too hard or whatever. Like, you just have to be okay with how you're doing stuff. And the whole point of our podcast is to feel good about the flow of your life. Like, it's not about getting in this perfect yes, if you can get in a perfect state of flow, good. Call us, tell us. We are in.
Totally.
We do it some days, but mostly not. We're just people. But we're here together to create a community of like figuring out our own flow and figuring out our own way we get through things. And decision making is a huge piece of that. Right?
Yes.
And there's all these
Totally.
little nuances which we wanted to talk to you about today, people. So we want to hear from you also about everything. So please put that in the comments or email us or whatever. Okay, Erica, you probably had more things to say. I just was
That was so good.
encapsulating
No,
the
I love
awesomeness.
it.
Okay.
You're right.
Yes.
I just want to echo what you said is like, don't beat yourself up because, you know, we sit here and like, I mean, we have a podcast about loving yourself unconditionally, trusting yourself and all the things about just creating an inner space of safety and calm and trust and love and stuff that you are naturally, but we forget, I think, a lot of
Yes.
times. And just remembering all of that and then bringing that to the surface as often as you can and whatever. So I love that you just said, don't beat yourself up. I mean, shoot, there have been so many decisions I've made in my past that I'm so glad I'm glad I've made every single decision, and I've tripped over myself countless times. And as I look back, I'm like, oh, I probably would do that different now. But like,
Yeah.
the learning is so worth it. It's like, I wouldn't have known if I hadn't made that choice.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, yeah, read this book about life and then just do it right.
Yeah.
Nobody does that.
Boring. It's
super boring. So boring.
So
Yes.
boring.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. What about when people can't make a decision? We didn't even talk about that. Indecision. We've been talking more about choice. Okay. Choice, not choice. What if they're just A, B, A, B, A, B, A, B, A, B, like it's not going anywhere? How can we help? I mean, we've sort of talked about it. Total and complete stuckness. Yes, we have podcasts about this, but on this decision-making level, are we back to the what are you afraid of? Is that really all that is? Okay.
I feel like it's what I feel like, yeah. Because I really feel like that to me is a layer, right? It's like, you're stuck in this space. Okay, you got there somehow. Go underneath that. Go pre-stuckness, kind of map yourself back and be like, okay, how did I get here to this stuck place? And so it's like, and sometimes it does require, or sometimes it's helpful to have another person to help you map that back if you really are stuck in
with friends.
Yeah, totally. Or, if you want to message us independently. Yeah, totally. Flogetter.com.
Unpacking.
Yes, just send us a message and we'll, connect. But yeah, it's like because there's always something. There is always something at the bottom, underneath. Yes. Always.
Yeah, if
there's
you're having
layers.
some funk, you got something delicious, juicy grossness to transform. I mean, do we all love a makeover show? Yes, we do. Don't lie. I know you all love it. So it's like your own personal growth moment where, the people come into the house and are like, yeah, okay, and it's like our same thing. We're like, you're a little stuck. You need some help, so you get to do that for yourself all the time.
Yeah.
Because you can always have awareness and you can always say it. What were you going to say?
I was also going to say there's the depth in the bottom part, but there's also the lightness. And it's like,
yes,
right. It's like no decision. I think you and I can agree that life is as deep and light on both sides. It's an world. And so when it comes to decision making, like you said in the very beginning, sometimes it's just make a decision and see what happens.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Gamble.
Just see what happens. Gamble. Yeah. And then see what happens. And then if you're like, you can always make another decision because we do this every day. We make decisions in every single moment. Even when we don't realize we are, it's always a choice. Always a choice.
And isn't that great news? Yeah.
It's such good news. And then you can make another choice and another choice and another choice. And if you look at life the way we do, which is, it is endless, it is infinite, it's always getting better. It's always working out. Even in our last moments of this body, it doesn't end. It just probably, I feel like it kind of might just even get better. I don't know. Or something. I don't know. I'm like excited to see what happens. But also, if you believe that, if you feel like you know that in your heart of hearts, no decision is the end of the world. It's like, I'm just going to make this choice.
I just thought of something.
Oh, good.
Lack. Okay, it ties to fear. If I pick this, then I'm shutting the door on that, or I don't have enough money to undo this decision, or it's still a fear. So we're in that subcategory. But I think lack is a little more direct about, okay, if I choose this, I'm not going to have enough energy to choose the other thing, or I can't, I can't undo that somehow, or I can't, it's a lack of resources, energy, time, something. You're just really afraid of lacking something. Here's the news. That is conditioning.
Yes.
That's advertising. That's conditioning from your family. Like, the lack seems really real, but you've admit it. If you're listening to this podcast, you have had times where it seems like there's no way you're going to manifest something. And then, like, oh my God, someone gave you something, or it just worked out, or you didn't even need it, or we've all had those moments of just good fortune. Even if you've had one your whole life, it's true. So also decondition ourselves that there's lack.
This is awesome, because you just made me think of, so my son, he goes between two homes, and he has gotten into the habit of focusing on the lack side, right? Where like he's in the
Teenager.
one home, which makes sense. I mean, yeah, exactly. I mean, I know when it's sort of like, it's all in your head, where you are not focused on the present. You're not focused on what's in front of you, on what you have right here, right now. You're focused on what you just left, or what,
Yes.
So for him, he'll go back and forth between the homes, and he'll miss the parent that he's not with versus being present with the parent that he's with, and this isn't what he always does, but like I've caught him in moments like that. It happens, right? We all do this, right? It's like, it's normal. But the trick is to that's why present moment is so important, because the trick is to focus on what you have in this moment, and then you lack nothing. Because really, when it comes down to, I mean, think this goes from the science level to the non-physical, and as we know, they're the same thing. Science wise, all you have is what's right here in front of you. That's all you have. That's literally, like, your eyes can only see so far. You can only hear so far. You can only feel so much, right? Like there is a point where it kind of stops, and that's what you should focus on. That is your present. That is where you are right now in this moment. And we have a whole podcast on like death, and I think in there I mentioned how I can't remember. Oh my gosh. Oh, how like I said, basically, if you think of like death, right? Or like loss or lack, it's just our minds that are tricking us into thinking that thing is
you just don't have the magic power to see that level of reality.
Right. Well, and it's also that we're focused on the thing that's not in front of us anymore.
Oh.
Right? So it's almost like there's a reason why, like, you're supposed to be where you are. That's it. You're supposed to be where you are. And when your mind takes you away from that, that's when we suffer. That's when we suffer. That's when fear.
Oh my God.
That's when fear enters, and it's because we're thinking about something that may or may not happen. And who cares? It's not in our sphere right now. So I think that's where decision making, to bring it back to decision making, when there's a fear around it, it's really we're like you said, we're afraid of lack. Well, the only reason we're afraid is because our minds have taken us out of the present moment. Our minds have taken us elsewhere. And so, yeah.
So mic droppy. Oh my God. I love that so much, because then you can train yourself when you're having a little tension decision thing. You're like, okay, what am I afraid of? I'm not in the present moment. Like, I need to have gratitude for this moment. First of all, like, I'm getting to paint a room, or I'm getting to decide between jobs, or I'm getting to make a
Make
decision on
choices.
a huge, I have choices. I've been given a choice. And the reason I'm suffering is I'm worried and I'm not here. And suffering is part of things. I mean, I think, there's a certain amount of, it seems to be part of the deal, but not to get off on that tangent. It's just like when you have decisions to make, the good news is that you always have choices to change your perspective about everything, like in any way you want, and get outside of the conditioning. Like life is just not as like A or B and then you're done, and like there's this dimensionalness to life that is really tricky to find, especially when you get in automatic fugue state mode. You're just like, A or B, I don't know what I want for dinner tonight. You're just spinning instead of like, I didn't have to kill or hunt or gather, and I'm here in a box that has other boxes of food. I'm going to pick one of these things. Like it's
Yes.
you. It's like, okay, yay, take a
Yeah.
minute. Look at all the beautiful produce and look at whatever you're eating, even if it's junk food. Like, oh my God, chemical Doritos. I love these things. Like, it
Yes.
doesn't matter. It's just be, and
Be where
then you
you're
can make a
at.
decision. Yeah, you can do it.
That's
And we all
right.
need each other. Here's the thing. We all need each other to help each other do this, because we're all struggling in some form to get in these better habits. So train yourself in the little ones. So when you get to a big one, you're like, okay, everything's working out for me. I can't do it wrong. Present moment. Don't be afraid. Go through this podcast like 18 times to remember everything, and you'll get it. And
Yeah.
help your friends help be like, if you're kind of in your own thing, like try enlighten other people to these different concepts to help you out. Not, they don't have to watch our podcast, but just get this concept to help other people, and be like, oh my God, we can be like decision buddies until we kind of get this together, because you need other people for reals, except for if you're Erica, then you do not.
I do. No, I do. I do need other people. I need
But
you.
decision
I
making,
need my, yeah.
yeah,
Oh, decision making. Right. And I
decision
think
making
that's
stuff.
where, yeah, it's kind of like, and I realize for me, I kind of look at like, there's humans who can help you. And then there's like the non-physicals. And then
Oh yeah,
there's
don't forget
like
them.
versions of
Yeah.
myself. And there's, like just the music that I hear in the radio, or the signs I see, as I'm driving down the street, or like, I do need help, but I don't just look at humans as my help. Right. I look at
I
like all
love
that
that.
stuff. So that's
Yes.
why like human energy is a one way for sure. And the songs on the radio and the TV or the commercial that pops
Yeah.
up, or the,
And non-physical
just
beings
the
and
non-physical beings, or the animals, or the, the colors that I see. It's like, oh yeah, I was trying to decide between this paint and this paint, and I
yeah.
keep seeing this paint in the real
Yeah.
world. And so, or this color in the real world. And so I'm going to, like
Yeah.
it's opening your
Or
mind
8,000
to,
trillion cells in my body have thoughts. I'm like,
right. It
hi, what
had
do you guys
thoughts.
think?
Exactly.
Like,
It's like, it is. I think we all get help. It's just a matter of seeing how that help is
yeah.
received. But I was, yeah, totally. And I think I was going to say one last point about the, the present moment thing was,
Yes.
whatever choice you do make, it's really the key, I think, is, picking out all of the awesome things, from the choice that you did make. And not, like you said, not seeing the lack, right? Because if we make a choice and then we're focused on what we didn't choose, that's when we suffer. If
Why
you
do you
make the
not torture
choice,
yourself, right? Don't
yeah,
do
don't
it.
torture yourself. Focus on the choice you did make, because there's always goodness in it. There's always
Yeah.
goodness in everything. So if
Yeah.
you made this one choice, be like, oh, like you said, oh my God, these Doritos are amazing. They taste so good. I love the
Yeah.
cheesy
Like,
powder.
like
Like, how
you
did I make
weird food
that?
science
Like,
people. Like,
totally, like,
like
yes,
evil
it was a
evil
great
cook who
choice.
made these, like, oh, like, go with it.
Yeah.
Not for too long,
Yeah.
kind of give you brain
Right.
damage, but
Your body will probably end up telling you that was not the
it
best
will.
choice. And then
Yeah,
you can make another choice next time,
later. Yeah,
Yeah.
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 But it's like, even if you kind of really make a mess of whatever you made a mess of, growth. I mean,
Yes.
and look back in your life. Take everyone right now. Just do a quick, I see my whole life, and how many times you've beaten yourself up. Don't do it. Everything brought you right here, and you're wiser, you're smarter, you're everything better right now.
Oh
You
my
really
God,
are.
yes. This is
So
why
just do
you are.
not go back and be like, oh, I should have not married that guy, or I should have, whatever. It's like, it brought you here. And everyone, I know that's so like cliche. It's like, blah, barf, don't say that. I hear that
It's
from all the
true.
things. So if you really don't believe that because you don't like where here is, this is another opportunity to go, like, self-love is just a freaking choice in your head. There is no magic thing that is going to come and make you love yourself more. It is a mental choice, and decision making is 100% wrapped up in that, because you can be like, oh my God, I love this decision I made today to look like hell, be all depressed, and totally stress myself out. Like, what? Because what did I get out of that? I got that I don't like that at all, and I love that I'm aware. So yay me. Okay, like learning, growing, good. You just cannot keep beating the shit out of yourself and expect to do it right, do it perfect, heal on any level. Like, you just can't let yourself do it, because we are all fucking up. Oh my God. We are all too something, not enough something, whatever. Like, just forget it. Like, yeah, okay. Everyone's just trying to reach this like perfect level with everything. I'm like, what the hell are you thinking? Are you insane? No one is going to reach anything near that. So these decisions that we're trying to make are trying to get us to this like perfect thing. And I'm like, you are missing life, people. Like, just stop it. I mean, as a person who has struggled with, am I good enough, whatever, and like, you just need to stop it. You need to live. You need to just own all the decisions and move forward, or be present and then move forward. Like,
That's
that
exactly it. Yeah, because when we're thinking about the past decisions, then it takes us out of the present moment. And being out of the present moment is what makes us feel shitty.
Yeah.
That's what makes us feel crappy, because our minds are taking us away from there. You could look like whatever you could. There is no room for anything that's negative in the present moment. There really isn't. It doesn't exist. It just doesn't. Fear does not exist in the present moment. It's like, fear does not exist in this present moment, does it?
If you're
No,
really,
sensei.
if the lion head is closing in on you, you can be like,
even that.
What beautiful
right?
teeth he has, and I will be dead soon, and that will be interesting. I mean, it kind of sucks because I kind of like living, but I'll be back.
Right.
It's not really a joke. It's like, really, are you going to torture yourself, or are you just going to go, okay, this is what I'm doing. You're getting eaten.
Absolutely. The only reason it's scary is because we're thinking about it. I tell my kid this all the time. The only thing worse than being where you don't want to be is thinking about being where you don't want to be. That's it. That's it.
So good.
That's it. And that is because we're not there. It's like he'll wake up in the morning and be like, I don't want to go to school today. I'm like, well, you're not there yet. So of course you don't want to go. But when he's actually in school, it's a different, he even tells me, he's like, it's actually not that bad when I'm there.
Yeah. You're like, so stop thinking about,
let's not think about school. Yeah. Let's not think about,
enjoy this delicious breakfast I made you, goddammit. Yeah. Like,
totally. Yeah. That's the only thing that makes us miserable is our minds outside of this moment.
Decisions. So good.
Yes.
Oh my God. Well, we have covered so much today, and listeners, if you made it this far, we love you. Please let us know what you think in any dimension. We have comments
in any language. We have Google Translate.
Yeah, you can tell us. Yeah, and we will hopefully Google Translate won't let us down, and we won't be like, "What did they just say to us?" Oh my God! And we were actually being nice. So thank you again, Erica, for being with me here today and us discussing this, because it's just life is full of decisions. Should I be in the present moment? Should I think about this? What should I think about that? How do I perceive this? It's all choices. Life is choices. And so the more comfortable you get with each one and tell yourself, great job. I'm so glad you did such a great job choosing what shoes to wear today. Amazing. Like, go with the little stuff. Doesn't even matter. We're so pleased that you're with us. So thank you for being here. Erica, thank you.
Thank you. I love you.
You've taught us so much. Yay. Oh, so, all right, ditto. Folks, we'll see you next time. And remember, you're amazing. Bye.
Bye.